Now, Saturdays are generally jam-packed, full of good vibes and conversations, and possibly even a kitchen disco, which leads me neatly into my first guest today. She's queen of the kitchen disco. She's mastered the art of a 24-hour dance-a-thon too, but we all best know Sophie Ellis-Bextor for some catchy tunes like Groove Jet, If This Ain't Love, Murder on the Dance Floor, and Take Me Home. And whilst Sophie has been busy singing live at various festivals this summer, she's also managed to squeeze in creating some new music in 2022. Her new single, Hypnotised, released earlier this week, so I caught up with, her just to chat about all of that and much, much more. I've spoken to your dad before, the lovely Robin, and of course he's got connections to Sussex. So, I wondered what your feelings are about Sussex.
My kids are half Sussex. That's where my husband's from. So Sussex is where Richard's from. So it's quite a big part of our lives, really. And we travel back to see his folks pretty often. And we always have to go back to Forest Row, which is where Richard was born. He was born at home there. My dad lives in Sussex too. And I think probably like a lot of people, traveling to Brighton was a formative part of my teenage years as well. And I always feel like if I was going to live anywhere outside of London, I'm a Londoner born and bred and my family are here. But if I ever up sticks and move somewhere, that's where I'd go.
And I wanted to ask you, as somebody that comes from a family whose mum and dad, in telly at the time, was that something that was always in the back of your mind?
Well, the thing is about my upbringing is I didn't actually have anyone that I knew that was in music. So whilst my parents were in TV, the world of music and being in a band was like, that's foreign to all of that. That's not the same thing at all. But the thing it did do is introduce me to the idea of, anything is possible, and I think my parents had come, the previous generation to them, their parents hadn't done anything creative like that. So I think, that was really the significant thing. It was like, there might be a way to do this. And I guess also I grew up in London in the 90s where A&R men were going to pubs and clubs and watching bands and signing people. And I think that era, so it was kind of all like quite exciting, really.
Groove Jet, that song just hasn't aged at all. And then obviously your first number one single. Do you remember how that journey for you started in music?
Well, my first bit of music was actually in the 90s in my first band, The Audience, which is when I was a teenager. And Groove Jet didn't actually happen until the noughties. So I'd already had like 4 years of being in a band. We got signed to Mercury and released an album, and then it all went really pear-shaped. So by 20, I was kind of high and dry again. And I thought maybe that was it for me, and I wouldn't be lucky enough to make music anymore. And then Groove Jet was just pure serendipity of someone suggesting me as a potential vocalist for that track. And at the time I was quite unsure because I wasn't interested in dance music. I'd come from indie, but then there was something about Groove Jet I really liked. And so that kind of introduced me to dance music, which led me to disco. And also because I was singing again, but I didn't have a band, it introduced me to being a solo artist. So Groove Jet kind of changed everything for me, really.
Hypnotised, I've listened to it a good few times actually, and I love the fact that you describe it as a wonky pop song.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell us about the single.
So the single is a collaboration with a talented Glaswegian producer-songwriter called Watto, or Pete as I know him. And so Pete approached me about working on this track together, and I loved the song from the get-go. And the reason I think of it as wonky pop is because it's on an unusual time frame. It's got a time signature. It's got, the chords kind of take you on this weird little journey. I think it's quite a clever little pop record, really. And when I first heard it, it reminded me of being like on a fairground ride, where you kind of start off spinning a bit slowly and then it gets faster and faster and you're a bit like, woo, I don't know which way's up anymore. And I love pop music that does that to you. Sometimes it's good to have that feeling.
And I love the video, and you always look so incredible.
I love making videos, absolutely love it. And the director for the Hypnotized video is the same lady. She's called Sophie has worked with me since the beginning, actually. We met when we did Take Me Home and Murder on the Dance Floor, and she's always my go-to person, and we just have a lot of fun. And I think she's so clever. So we filmed it in Glasgow Barrowland, which is an iconic live music venue that's got an amazing dance floor, and it's been a dance venue since the 50s. So it's got all that history in there. And yeah, my outfit is a nice bit of latex for you.
You look good in it. I'll tell you what, if I put that latex on, not as a good look
my God,
for me.
Look phenomenal. Are you kidding me? You look awesome. Try it.
You'll be all bumps and lumps, you know.
You know what? It's surprisingly flattering. And the clever thing as well about latex is that it's not that hot. I thought I was going to be boiling, but actually it stayed quite cool. And I didn't wear, it was basically like a suit. So I had a skirt and a jacket with like powerful shoulders. And I just felt great. So I'd say try it before you count it out. You might surprise yourself.
Because I actually really do trust you. I may just try something out. And if I ever do, I'm going to let you know about it.
Yeah. Do it for like Brighton Pride or something.
Sounds like a good plan. Obviously, you're a mum. I always admire anybody that, we're all busy people, aren't we? But you seem to manage to balance everything out. So you've got your new music coming out. I saw a great photo of you lying on the grass on one of your social media posts with you just saying, I've done back-to-back festivals. I've now gone back to meet Richard, my husband, at the one I started at. Where'd you get the energy, Sophie?
Well, I think first things first, I really do love what I do. And, I took the kids with me this weekend and we had a lot of fun, actually. And then actually, when I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, like if my diary's looking a bit busy, and I'm sure lots of people have to do this, but I just have to take it one day at a time. If I look too far ahead, I get a bit like, it makes my brain go a bit funny. But one day at a time, just focus on whatever I've got to do that day. And, I'm lucky. I've got lots of support. I've been doing what I do for a long time. So I work with a lot of the same people. Richard, my husband, is also my MD for my band. So we share the workload as well. And I think, once you've got to this point, and you've got your little family around you, haven't you, of the people that help make your life work. And you're like, right, you're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. I need you. Thank you so much. And then, it's all about kind of everybody doing the bit that they do and focusing on that. Otherwise, I'd probably be collapsing more often, to be honest.
I think what you've touched on there is really interesting and really important for all of us in a way, is making time for yourself, for your family, your support network as well. But having done Children in Need, I did a 4-hour dance-a-thon for BBC Radio Sussex and BBC Radio Surrey. And that was during lockdown. People were watching me through the glass. I had no interaction with anybody. I was just by myself. I love dancing, so that was a good thing. But having to keep motivating myself to keep going is just a whole other level of where do I get the energy? Where do I pull this from? So watching you, totally inspiring. You raise so much money for Children in Need. Where did you pull from in those moments where you were like, I can't do this anymore?
Well, I think I'd listened to lots of advice. Like you, I was still doing it at a time when the restrictions were quite strict. So I had 2 sections of 4 hours where no one was allowed with me. The second of which was between like 2 and 6 in the morning. And actually, I think I'd spent so much time worrying about how to get through that actually those bits in a way were the kind of fun bits, because I just really lent into the music. So I would just be like, right, this song's come on, right, I'm just going to really like let this song do the work for me and carry me. The bit that was really tough was when I was I've been doing it for, 20 hours. So I was really pretty fatigued and starting to get a bit like, your brain gets a bit warped. And some very kind person doing the playlist for me decided to treat me to Scatman Bebop Dop thing, and then Who Let the Dogs Out, and then Cotton Eye Joe back to back at like sort of 6:30 in the morning. And I honestly thought, are you trying to break me? Like, this is not working. And actually, the last hour and a half, I just couldn't stop crying. It was just like everything in me just kind of turned into like this pool of emotion. And by the time my mum and Richard and the kids arrived on stage, I just was sobbing, basically.
Oh, it was
a very big weepy mess.
Yeah, but it was so overwhelming and so lovely to see you all together as well, the kids.
It was lovely for me as well. It was really special. Like, nothing's going to be ever quite like that. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I did think of the whole thing as a massive privilege. And, you know, there was like so much support around me. And, you know, I actually said I'd do it again. I'd do it again. I thought it was really special. It's ridiculous, but also it's quite nice to know I can still dance through the night. I'm up for that.
Yes, girl, I'm right there behind you. I hope that's a little, anyone listening, get Sophie back for the Kitchen Disco Dance-a-thon.
I'll do it again, yeah.
The rather fabulous, stunning Sophie Ellis-Bextor there. And she's got a very new, catchy, wonky pop song, as she likes to call it. It's out now and you can listen to it wherever you get your music from. It's called Hypnotised with a Z. So just remember that if you're looking for it. For more information on Sophie, you can go and check out sophieellisbextor.net.